With all this controversy surrounding Ja Morant, there seems to be a lot of confusion on the difference between a right and a privilege. I've explained this many times before. I'm going to explain it again for my slow learners out there like JJ Redick. A right is something that cannot be taken away. Well, theoretically, anyways. You could also define rights as everything deacons at Woke United Methodist are trying to take away. Not from themselves, of course. They don't want to lose their right to protect themselves. They just don't want you to have the same rights because they want you relying on them for protection. Take away the Second Amendment, defund the police. What are you left with to protect yourself? Social worker Patrice. Patrice identifies as non-binary, hence the chosen name. They have purple hair, a nice tattoo of the woke wiener making its way towards their facial orifice. Patrice is also bound to a wheelchair. Well, KC, how are they gonna protect us? Don't worry, have no fear. Patrice has a way with words. It has a way of opening criminals up in the middle of a crime wave and getting them to share their feelings on their traumatic childhood. Rights are given to you by your creator, whoever you believe that to be. Privileges are given to you by others. Privileges can be taken away at someone else's discretion. In the case of Ja Morant, it's a privilege for him to work in the NBA. He is privileged to make millions of dollars. He is privileged to receive endorsement deals. Those privileges come with a certain level of responsibility. There is an expectation that you will conduct yourself professionally. There are policies involving personal conduct in all these NBA contracts. Anonymous Albert, if he flashes a gun on social media, no one gives a shit. No one cares about Albert. He's the doorman at the Shaggin' Dragon. They can find anyone to stand at the door handing out batteries for the cucumber. Albert is replaceable. Ja Morant is not. Earlier this week, I think it was on Monday, I said this latest incident with Ja Morant was not about the gun. The gun is the symptom to the larger problem. The problem being this long-term pattern of negative behavior, this long-term pattern of bad judgment when it comes to Ja Morant, this fantasy that he keeps portraying, I'm about that life. No, you're not. Ja Morant, he has been suspended indefinitely by the Memphis Grizzlies. Adam Silver, the NBA front office, they have not announced how they're going to handle this. I saw an interview with Adam Silver the other day where he insinuated that the punishment could be severe for Ja Morant. Not because of this one incident, Ja Morant flashing it on social media. Again, that's not because of that. The punishment could be severe because of the overall pattern of behavior. There are rumors that Ja Morant could be suspended for half the regular season, or worse, the entire season. When we discussed Ja Morant the other day, not one time did I bring up politics. Why? Because politics has nothing to do with it. This situation is not some crusade for gun control. Normal people, we look at this situation for what it really is. A young man, a young millionaire who suffers from a serious lack of judgment. But you can't look at this situation through the lens of logic. After all, you're JJ Redick. You are collecting woke welfare from ESPN, the worldwide leader in woke. In order to come up with an argument that will make the woke boners in the executive offices reach their proper climax, we must remove the Under Armour hat and put on, it's been a while, put on our trusty woke cap. Okay. Woke hat applied. We need to think of a way to absolve Ja Morant from accountability. I mean, no one else in the NBA is held accountable. Why should Ja Morant be? How can we justify a lighter punishment? How can we convince Adam Silver, the alien himself? How can we convince him to go easy on Ja Morant? Oh, Adam, you are one sexy alien. Make sure to keep your social distance from the Star Trek virgin Mike Freeman. He is begging for someone not from this world to properly deflower him. He almost convinced R2-D2 until the damn batteries died. But anyway, you give Ja Morant a light punishment. Don't punish him with the stiffy. We have politicians choosing to identify as the evil white man promoting guns all the time on social media. We cannot punish the black victim for doing the same thing. I am not making that up. This was JJ Redick's argument. That was his justification. The NBA should go easy on Ja Morant because white politicians, who just so happen to be Republican, they are supporters of the Second Amendment and promote it on social media. Watch for yourself.
I don't think half a season is the right answer. And the last point I want to make, because you bring this up, the guns on social media. We talk about consequences. Look, in our country right now, gun culture is pervasive. It's pervasive. We've got mass shooting after mass shooting, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. So I get why we're so sensitive to this right now. But there's no consequence for Greg Abbott telling his constituents that they should go buy more guns, and then we have mass shooting after mass shooting in Texas. There's no consequence for an elected Tennessee official to send out a Christmas card holding AR-15s with his young family, and then there's a shooting in his very district. There's no consequences to that. So why are we trying to lay down the hammer on a 23-year-old who didn't break a law?
First of all, before I address the toxic flatulence that just came out of JJ Redick, let me point something out. Don't buy into this fake outrage, because that is exactly what this is, fake outrage. JJ Redick pretending to be upset. This was nothing but political theater, which is a required course for all students attending Woke U Bristol. JJ Redick, he has always leaned to the left, which is fine, that's fine, but he is normally level-headed. He's normally a common sense thinker. I might not always agree with JJ Redick politically, but he's normally pretty good at conveying his thoughts. JJ Redick's a smart dude, but this was not one of his finer moments. The entire premise of his argument makes no sense. This is what I was talking about with Pat McAfee this morning. How long has JJ Redick been collecting woke welfare from ESPN? What has it been? 18 months? Maybe 2 years? You expect me to believe ESPN hasn't changed JJ Redick? He is comparing this situation with Ja Morant, a potential suspension of a superstar in the NBA. And he's trying to compare that to mass shootings in Texas and Tennessee. What the hell does one have to do with the other? What does some politician in Tennessee posing with an AR-15 during Christmas, what does that have to do with Ja Morant? Well, KC, there were no consequences for that evil white politician. There will be stiff consequences for Ja Morant. Emphasis on stiff. Yeah, that's true. But here we go again with the difference between a right and a privilege. You want to know why there were no consequences for the politician? He is not being paid millions of dollars by the Memphis Grizzlies. He doesn't have endorsement deals with Nike. I assume Nike is anti-gun since they're anti-everything else, especially anti-American. Hell, the politician in Tennessee, he's probably endorsed by the NRA. Pretty sure they don't have a problem with guns. Ja Morant has every right to flaunt his weaponry on social media, but at the same time, the NBA has every right to punish him for doing so. When you're given a privilege, you gotta be able to recognize the responsibility. Politicians in pro-gun districts, pro-gun states, they're gonna be praised for showing them off on social media. A superstar NBA player? Ain't gonna happen. It has nothing to do with race either. I don't want to hear shit about mythical racism because that's not the case here. But I noticed a glaring omission in JJ Redick's confusing soliloquy. He mentioned Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas. He mentioned Andy Ogles, a representative in Tennessee. 2 states known for having populations who are against the deacons at Woke United Methodist. We are 137 days into 2023. There have been 5 mass shootings. 5. Now, I realize 1 is too many, but the point is, mass shootings, they're not all that common. That's why they make national news when they happen. Last year, there were 12 mass shootings. JJ Redick wants to pretend gun violence is an epidemic, but I noticed he didn't mention the gun violence in Chicago. I wonder why. Last year, there were over 2,800 shootings in Chicago, 695 homicides. Now, I'm no Pythagoras, but that seems to be about 2 every day. But maybe JJ Redick didn't mention Chicago because he's never lived there. Yeah, that's gotta be it. Double J, he just ain't familiar with Chicago. During his NBA career, He lived in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and New Orleans. 3 cities who all have something in common: gun violence. Now, 3 of these 4 cities I've mentioned also have super strict gun laws. How come they weren't mentioned by JJ Redick? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. You see, the narrative driven by ESPN is that gun violence is only an epidemic in conservative states. It's not a problem in Chicago. No. Chicago isn't the problem. Chicago is the solution. Enforce strict gun laws, take them away from law-abiding citizens, remove the constraints of bail, defund the police, and trust that criminals will obey the law. This is one of the many problems at ESPN. JJ Redick performed that entire tirade to perfection. He played his role perfectly, expressing his fake outrage. Not one counter argument was given by Stephen A. Smith. Chris Russo, he just sat over there looking at JJ Redick like he was a complete dumbass. Chris Russo, he looked like he was thinking, why the hell did I agree to work here? This place is a fucking dump. The other side of the argument, that is not allowed at ESPN. This is why I said Pat McAfee is going to have a hard time fitting in. Unless, of course, he conforms. If Pat McAfee conforms, he will fit in perfectly at ESPN. He'll just lose most of his audience. If someone at ESPN is brave enough to present the other side of the argument, they're silenced. Now, earlier in that segment, and I didn't show this part to you guys, but earlier in the segment, JJ Redick claimed Ja Morant should get off easy because no law was broken. And, I mean, he's right. No law was broken, but this is not about the law. This is about perception. It's about a complete lack of judgment. Like I told you guys the other day, this is going to be a case where Ja Morant, he is punished based off of his past behavior. Violation after violation after violation. Just because he didn't break the law doesn't mean he's absolved. Me personally, I don't think the video from this past weekend, I didn't think that was a big deal. Matter of fact, it was really nothing. Ja Morant and his posse being stupid. But my personal thoughts, they don't matter. What matters is what the NBA thinks. What matters is what the Memphis Grizzlies think. I would imagine the Grizzlies are tired of the bullshit. Ja Morant's lucky that he has privilege. They just let Dillon Brooks go because he's a pain in the ass. Dillon Brooks, he doesn't have Ja Morant privilege because he ain't Ja Morant. But anyway, rambling off topic. This is about JJ Redick. Give me your thoughts. JJ Redick melts down on woke take. Do you think some of that was an act? What did you think of him trying to compare Ja Morant to Republican politicians in Tennessee and Texas? Make that comparison make sense to me. Good luck. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.